Hey everyone, my name's Calvin and welcome to my video tutorial for Watercolor Starmap Poster Creator. This is an add-on for Photoshop, and in this video we're going to go over some of the major functions, and specifically what we're going to make is this poster right here. So the first thing you'll do is download the product folder. It's going to be a zip file, so go ahead and unzip it, and inside you'll find a few different folders and a few different files. The first one here is the Starmap Creator itself. It's 8 by 10 inches. It's a Photoshop document. If you want the A4, A3, A2 size, you can find that in the Extras and Updates folder. And this next file here is the README. That'll have my email address, just in case you have any questions or comments. And it'll also have the link to the Starmap data source. But I'll make sure to go over that in the video and also copy a link to that in the description of the video as well. This last folder here is the bonus font. It's called Insatiable, and you can just install that one if you want to. The poster uses it as default, so if you don't install it, it'll throw up a warning, but it's fine. You can change any of the fonts in the poster creator. So I've already have these installed, so I don't have to do that. So I'll back out here. And this is the one we're going to use in this tutorial. So I'm going to double click this to open it up in Photoshop. And it looks just like this. And today we're going to use Photoshop CC, but this works fine in CS5 and CS6. I just use CC because it works a little bit better with my screen recording software. And the first thing you'll see when you open it up is basically a mock-up, and the poster creator is inside of this mock-up. But at any time, you can close the other smart objects and it'll take you back to this mock-up, and you can kind of see what your poster would look like when it was done, when it's printed out and framed. But to edit the poster, to edit the star map, just double-click on this little smart object icon here. So see, in the layers, there's usually a layer thumbnail here, and there's this little page thing. If you double click that, it's going to open up a separate document and it's going to appear as a tab up here. So I'm going to double click that. So when we double click that smart object, it made a new document tab up here. If we go back to the original, that's where we just were. When we double click that, it made a new tab. And this is kind of how this poster creator works. It's just multiple layers of smart objects, and you can save them and close them and it'll update the recent one, but I'll show you how to do that. So the next thing you might want to do is change the star map to make it custom for your date and time. So I'm going to go inside that smart object here by double clicking this page icon, and it's going to open up another document and that has yet another smart object inside of it, and I'm going to open up that one. So we're now a few layers deep here, and this is the default star map. We want to drop in our own, so I'm going to turn that one off, and I'm going to go to my browser here, and here's the website. I'll paste the link in the description, and it's also in that README file. But it'll take you to this page that has this kind of globe, this round circle diagram here. And before you start changing anything with that, make sure your location is set, the geographic location. And you can do that by going up into the corner and clicking whatever location it's picked up based on your IP address. And then you can go over here and search wherever you want the night sky picture to be from. So in this case, I'll look up Atlanta. And then I'll do search, Atlanta, Georgia. There we go. And it's going to update it, but you have to go to the bottom and click update down here. And now it'll remember that from now on, and it'll take you back to the front page. And just go back to the star map. The front page is just like an index, and under astronomy, you can go back to the interactive sky chart. Just click that, and it'll take you back to the link where you first were. And the star map, sort of by default, if it's your first time visiting here, it'll have all the options turned on. I don't really need all those, so I recommend you just turn them all off except the constellation lines. So it'll look like this. So I've turned everything off except the constellation lines. And you can change the time up here and kind of scroll through hours, minutes, and set this night sky view to an exact time of the day. Actually, this is almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, but yeah, you can just change it to whatever time you want. And set the month and set the year like that. And when you're happy with it, when it has all the location and the date set, just sort of mouse over the star map and go to copy image. And it'll copy this as a JPEG image, and we can go to Photoshop. And remember, we turned off the default one. We'll just paste in ours. Paste. Here we go. And then I'll close and save those smart objects to take us back to the Starmap Poster Creator. So on the top of this document here, there's a tab. Just X out of it, and then when it asks if you want to save, just click yes or save. So after that loads and after this smart object updates, you don't need to make any changes here. Just X out of that one too, and then click Save. So now we're back to the Starmap Poster Creator, and it's updated the constellation lines here and all the stars. And it does a little bit of, the reason it takes so long, I guess, is because it interacts with this background that we're going to choose next, and it creates like a dark outline, so it makes it look like they were actually painted on there. So it has kind of a nice effect. So the next thing we'll do is change this watercolor background. And you can do that inside here. So it's another smart object, so I'll double click this little page icon, and it brings us to this new tab, and you can choose any of these. I've also included some extra ones in the extras and updates folder for the product, the same folder where you'll find the A3, A4, A2 size version of the Poster Creator. There's a couple more backgrounds there to choose from, but I decided to just include my favorite ones here. So I really like the moon one, but let's try something different. How about let's try this one, actually. And they're just images, so you can edit them if you want to and change the color. Like if you wanted to just tweak the shade, you can just select that layer and then go up to Image, Adjustments, and then Hue and Saturation. Then it'll just give you that slider where you can kind of choose a different shade of colors if you didn't like the orange. I think the orange is pretty good, but I'll push it a little bit towards red. There we go. But this is just optional. You don't have to mess with this if you don't want to. You can just use the default ones. So this is good. There's a few options up here that you can turn on and off, and they'll modify the colors just a little bit. These are just like filters, basically. So this will brighten the colors. This will soften the colors. I think I just like how it is by default. It's fine. So I'll make sure those are all turned off. And then to save this, to save my changes here, I'm going to X out of this document tab, this smart object. And when it asks if I want to save, I'll just click Save. And now we're back to the original Starmap Creator here, and it's swapped in our new background. And the next thing you might want to do is change the text. So that's the first folder over here, and you can pop that folder open. And here's the circle text. Just like in any Photoshop document, you can edit the text by double-clicking the T. So if I double-click this, it'll highlight it, and then I can just go ahead and type whatever I want. But I don't want to use the circle text for this particular poster, so I'm going to turn that one off. I just want to change line 1. Actually, I like this. That's fine. But if you do want to change line 1, just double-click that T. It'll highlight the text. And then you can change the color by going up here and changing it like this. You can also select a color from your little watercolor background. You don't have to use this. You can actually just click the image here and choose a more a relevant color. Let's see. I think that's pretty good, but I want to desaturate it just a little bit. There we go. And I'll do OK. And if you wanted to change that, again, you could just highlight it like this and type. If it doesn't type or if the text isn't changing, just double check that it's highlighted. It needs to have this black box around it. Photoshop will only change what's been highlighted by the text tool. So I will change line 2 here, and I can't remember the exact date that I set it to when I got the star map, but you'd copy that data into here. Just type in the month, the day, the time if you wanted to. So I'll change this to Atlanta. Okay, so I'm just guessing here. This is probably wrong, but that's what I remember it was set to. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I want to change the color of this one. So again, you can't change the color unless it's been highlighted. So I'm just going to double click the T again here until it's highlighted, and then I can change the color up here. And I'll choose a color right off the star map. Okay, a little bit less saturated. Okay, that looks great. Now do OK. Now I'm done with the text options here, so I'm just going to sort of close that group, minimize it. And the next thing I might want to modify here is the frame options for the star map. So this little thing here is the star map. And this golden thing on the edge is the frame, and there's a few options here. So I'm going to pop open that group, and you can just turn it off if you don't want it. If you want to try another one, you can select some of these other ones. There's a lot of options here, but actually I think I want to do the square, the gold square. So 2 of them are on, so they're kind of stacked up, but I'll turn off those circles. I think the square looks pretty cool. Okay, so when I'm happy with that, I'll just close that group, just minimize it. And the next thing, This is optional. This is really optional. There isn't a lot going on in there, but if you want to have a border on your star map, just turn that one on. It's going to be off by default. Just click the little eye there to make it come on. And then you can choose a different border if you want to. I think for this project, I'm just going to leave it turned off. I'll just close that one there. And the next one here is the paper background. You know, I tested this a lot. It prints really well, but if you don't like it, you can just turn it off. But it does give the paper a really nice watercolor look. It might be hard to see on your screen, but when you print it out on an inkjet printer or a laser printer, it really looks like real watercolor paper. And once you put it in a frame, put it on the wall, it's totally convincing. But it's optional, and you can turn that off if you want to. I think for this one, I'll leave it on. The last options here is the star map style options. Not a lot in there to change. Mostly, it's just gonna you're gonna be able to change the outlines here. So when I zoom in, you see wherever there's a constellation line, it gives it a little dark edge there, just to sort of go with the watercolor look. And if you turn that off, it looks a bit like this. So it's up to you. I really like to have that one on. I think it's a cool look, so I'll leave that one on. And when you're all done, when you're happy with your design, you've customized the constellation, the background, and the text, you can export this as a JPEG and just save that and then use that file for printing. You just usually do that by going to File, Export, and then you could save for web, or you could do Save As. The thing you'll notice though, like if I go to Save for Web, it'll make this especially clear, is that this document is humongous. Even though it's only 8 inches by 10 inches, it's running at 600 dpi. So you can print, you know, the 16 by 20 if you want to at 300 dpi, or even larger ones at just a little bit less than that. You'll notice here the pixel dimensions are enormous. If you are only going to print it on an 8-inch by 10-inch page, you don't need to save it this big. Just save it at 3,000 inches wide, or 2,400, not inches, pixels. 2,400 pixels wide or 3,000 pixels wide. Both of those will do fine, and it'll be a little bit easier for your printer to handle. But I'm not going to save this. If you were going to save this, just save it to your desktop and then send that file to your printer. But I'll cancel this. So after you've saved your files, and maybe you want to show your client or make an Etsy listing and you want to show people what it is that you're selling, this poster creator comes with that built-in mockup that you saw when I first opened it up. And if you want to update that mockup with your poster here, all you have to do is just X out of this document, this smart object, and then go ahead and save it. And it might throw a warning like this. Just click OK. And there we go. That's what our poster design would look like in the mockup. And if you want to save the mockup, you can just go to File, Export, and then Save for Web. And it's much smaller than the Starmap Poster Creator, so you probably don't need to change the size. You can just save this as it is and put it up on Etsy. Just a little freebie that I thought might help you out. And I'm not going to save this one, so I'll go and cancel it. Now remember when I talked about how this came with some bonus or extra watercolor backgrounds? I want to show you how to drop one of those in. So I'm going to go back inside the Starmap Poster Creator. And I'll go inside the watercolor texture smart object. And I'm going to turn off the tequila sunrise one. And I'm going to go back to Finder, back to the folder we unzipped. And it's the extra watercolor backgrounds are in the extras and updates folder. And they're in this one here, bonus watercolor backgrounds. And I think I want to try this one. This is good. So I'm just going to copy this. I'll just do Command C or Control C. You may also be able to just drop it into Photoshop. I'll go back to Photoshop here, and I'll do Paste. And it'll fit right in there. It's exactly the right size. Depending on what you have selected up here, it might show up in the filters, but try to drag it down underneath the filters, because these will only affect layers beneath them. So let's try some of these options and see what looks good. Actually, I like that neutral look. It's pretty cool. So just like before, just X out of that tab, and then when it asks if you want to save, just click Save, and then it will update the poster creator. And there we go. That's what it looks like. You can just, if you want to, change the text color just like before. Go in the personalized text options and grab some colors from this, and you have a whole new poster design. So hopefully that's a pretty good overview. Just leave a comment or send me an email. That's actually the best way to reach me, is an email, and I'll get right back to you. But other than that, guys, thanks for your support and thanks for watching.